Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. So tonight, Josh isn't going to be on with us tonight. He just isn't feeling well tonight. So instead, I'm going to have a couple of guests on with us tonight. Um, so yeah, so we're going to have a couple of guests. We'll talk about kind of like the same topic. We're going to be talking about the Whaley House. We're going to talk about somebody that was there last weekend. Kind of had some experiences. We're going to talk about with somebody that um, also worked at the Whaley House. So it's going to be a little, it'll be about basically same thing, talking about Whaley House and a few other things that are going on. Um, yeah, so it'll be pretty interesting. So it was brought to my attention that today's the 6th anniversary. Well, it was 6 years ago today that the incident with Debbie Constantino and Mark Constantino, the murder suicide, occurred 6 years ago today. So, yeah, kind of crazy. Um, we knew Mark and Debbie for a while. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy. But anyway, so what else is going on? Okay, so no, just one of our guests just popped um into the green room. So we have our guest waiting. Um anyway, sorry I got a little quiet. But also there's been a lot of things going on lately in the ITC field. I'm not going to get into it, but we're just trying to keep everything positive here. If anybody just starts saying anything, or um, if we get any trolls in the chat room, people will start getting blocked. I'm just trying to keep everything positive and keep everything on the up and up. Josh and I are working on a few big things. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes coming up. So it's going to be pretty cool. We have a lot of exciting things in the works. Um, so without further ado, um, we're going to bring on our guest. The first guest we're going to bring in is Chuli. She was on the show last week. She was on Saturday. So we just wanted to do a follow up with what happened on Saturday. She has some ties to the Whaley House. So we wanted to bring her on Saturday to see what we might be able to, get her some answers. And it was pretty amazing on some of the things that came through on Saturday night. So, um, anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and bring her on right now. Hey, Julie,
Hi.
welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
So, yeah, we did some pretty. So last week you came on
Hmm.
and we talked about the Whaley House a little bit. If you wanted just a recap for those people that have weren't tuned in last week, can you just give us a little background of the Whaley House and some of the things that you experienced?
Mhm. Yeah. So the Whaley House, just a quick little history thing. So the house was built in 1856. It was completed in 1857 by Thomas Whaley himself. He had a general store there. There's a theater. The house had many different uses. So he was a businessman. So, and that before the house was even built there, that's where the gallows stood, and he was well aware of that. So, yep.
Um, so Thomas Whaley, I know that he experienced some of the hangings that occurred there, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yankee Jim, yeah.
And there was also some executions there, correct?
Correct.
And Thomas participated in one of the
Fire.
executions, the firing squad, correct?
Correct. Just 2 blocks away from the
Okay.
house.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. There's something else I wanted to ask you now. I just lost train of thought.
And then even the family experienced paranormal activity.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, there was people that talked and said that the house was haunted while the family was living there, and they were um, experiencing paranormal activity. Also,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Correct. Yep.
Do you know what some of the claims that was happening there that they had?
Yeah, so Thomas Whaley was the first one to witness or experience paranormal activity. He would hear like footsteps, and they just felt like they weren't alone in the house. And then after Violet took her own life, they just felt a heavy presence of her there. Yeah.
Wow. Um, yeah, it's been. I know that there's a lot of things going on right now with the Whaley House.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this: so you
Mm-hmm.
came on the show on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
so we can kind of get you some closure or some help and try to figure out what you might be experiencing, or to see if possibly there's an attachment or certain things. Now on Saturday show,
Mm-hmm.
how did you like that?
It was interesting. I just felt so much energy. That's why I was so quiet. Like everybody's like, "Why is she so quiet?" I just felt frozen. There's a lot going on that night. A lot of energy. A lot of energy coming through.
Yeah, and that's what people I know that were participating or and watching on Saturday. They kind of felt the energy shift.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying how much energy it felt like just came on all of a sudden um, during some of the sessions. Um, and during some of the responses that we were getting, I know that we got a few names.
Yeah.
And can you tell us like what you were hearing during the some of the sessions?
I heard my name called out. I thought I heard Violet.
Yeah.
And Hannah. Yeah, there's just so much coming through.
So Darcy, I guess, is near.
The
You said
Whaley
she's a
House.
yeah, a few miles away.
I want to go there.
Yeah, and Judy lives in San Diego also.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so why did Eric come back? Oh, we probably lost him. Okay. Hmm. So yeah, we have another guest who actually was at the Whaley House on Saturday night while we were doing our show. And it was pretty crazy because I actually got a couple of pictures from him while we were doing the show. So yeah, it was kind of crazy on some. And actually, here's the funny thing. Now I'm once I got those pictures, and shortly after the pictures were sent, we heard the name Eric come through, and that I didn't put the pieces of the puzzle together because I got a text message, but and it was like almost immediately before I got the pictures. I heard Eric because I went back and I looked later because I said, wait a minute, didn't it say Eric about that same time? So I went back, rewatched the clip, and put the timeline together. And it was literally a couple of minutes prior to him sending me the pictures, I got the name Eric coming through. So that's kind of why I said, because Josh wasn't going to come on. And I said, you know what? I need to get Eric on the show. It just came to me late. It was probably, after 6 o'clock our time. So it was probably maybe 2 hours ago. I had that idea. So I scrambled last minute and was able to pull him in. So, and we have him on, we're going to have him on the show tonight. We're going to ask him a little bit about the Whaley House, what he experienced, what he saw that they're doing to the house, and talk to him about what they did in the house and things like that. So it's going to be pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be okay with that? Just because of your emotional ties and everything to the house?
I should be okay.
Okay. I know this is going to be kind of like raw and it might get emotional, but I just wanted to, and I ran it by you before we brought you on anyway. So I just wanted to make sure. I'm just trying to alliterate, are you going to be okay? I just want you to be all right. I mean, and if you have to leave, that's fine. I understand. Okay. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Eric Van Leer. He's been on the show a few times. Eric's like a little brother to me. So, all right. So without further ado, here's Eric.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, hopefully it's not too noisy here. I'm at the Starbucks in Northridge. So we went down to San Diego for Halo Scream Media Night, which is at SeaWorld. They've had it in Orlando for quite a few years, but this was the first year they had it in San Diego. So I went down as the host of Creepy AF, and we were there with Steve Jamma, who Rob knows. And after Halo Scream, we did a podcast from the steps of the Whaley House. But before we even set up, we just drove by, and both myself and Ace Jordan, who's the producer of Creepy AF, felt a strange energy coming from the middle part of the house, which is where the front door is. Ace was especially feeling it. So Steve went back to his house, which is about a block away in Old Town, and got the table and all the podcasting equipment, and we came back. And I felt some weird energy on the side of the house. So I told Ace to come check it out. And in the back of the Whaley House is actually another home, which I guess is where the groundskeeper stays. And Ace pressed the doorbell, and we heard a dog. We found out later from Steve, who talked to the person that lives there, that there is a dog at that home. But we also, Ace and myself, we heard a dog barking coming from the Whaley House, and to our understanding, there's no dog in the home, at least a living dog. And I stayed down in San Diego. I came back like 2 a.m. that morning. There was a wrestling show I wanted to see in Ocean Beach. Ace went back. He had Fright Fest and all that at Magic Mountain. But I believe it was after Fright Fest, which I missed, but it was a great wrestling show. Anyways, after Fright Fest, Ace was watching, I guess, a documentary and saw a story about the ghost dog. And I guess I have to eat my words because I was telling both of them early in the night that I thought the Whaley House was extremely overhyped. I didn't think that it was very active, although I had some strange feelings when I was there a long time ago in the theater. I told them that the cemetery down the street I feel is much more active. But I mean, I can't say it's haunted just because I felt energy and heard a ghost dog, but it definitely was interesting.
So, Judy, can you tell him a little bit about the ghosts? There's actually a couple of there's three animals in the house, right? That are
not living.
Not living.
Yeah.
Can you tell him which?
Yeah. So there's 3 animals in the house. There's a white fox terrier. Her name's Dolly. There's a pug. His name's Chubby, and there's a cat.
I believe it sounded like a medium-sized dog from the bark.
No, it's probably Dolly then.
Yeah, it's probably Dolly.
Yeah, it had to have been Dolly.
I didn't know anything about a dog haunting the place before that happened. And like I said, the dog in the back house is a real dog.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of energy in there. There's also there's some negative energy in the front of the house. So in this picture, so if you're looking at the background, on the right-hand side of the picture, you'll see a light post. Directly behind that light post was the study, right? Is that the study?
There's the parlor, like when you're looking at the post in the picture.
Yeah, that's
the parlor,
right
and then the study in the back.
And then the study in the back. Now, between the study and the parlor was where the gallows was, right?
The archway, yeah.
Yeah, the archway between the study and the parlor is where the gallows were. Now, there is a darker energy there. It's been rumored to be. A lot of people say it's Yankee Jim, but I don't think it's Yankee Jim.
I don't think he's there.
I don't think he's there either. Who do you think is there?
Me?
In your experience, or your thought.
I think it's Juan Verdugo.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, I do want to go back. I know that there's a lot of chit chat behind and Eric in the background where Eric's at. Let me see if I can do something for now.
Should I go outside?
If you can.
Okay. Let me go outside.
All right. I'll bring Eric back once he gets back. But yeah, I think so. And I think when we do go back there, because I want to go to the Whaley House and do some EVP sessions and see if we can get anything while we're there. So yeah, so we're gonna do a little bit of investigating to try to see if we can get some answers.
Yeah.
And once the Whaley House does open, I'm gonna see if we can get a tour inside the house, a private tour. Yeah, I want to get a private tour. I've investigated it a few times. Just when I was there, I was concentrating on other things, so I didn't spend a lot of time in that area where I want to concentrate on this time. So, and that's the problem about doing like a private investigation,
Right.
or I mean, a paid investigation where you only get a few hours.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of why I do not like doing those, because you don't get enough time and you only get to concentrate on one thing at a time. I mean, just like real one area specifically.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, if I do an investigation of one location, I like to spend at least 24 to 36 hours there. Because that's going to give you plenty of time to gather a bunch of evidence. And there might be times when you do have to go back. So yeah, hopefully next time around we'll concentrate on we just lost there. If we can concentrate on just one specific location and see what happens.
Yeah.
So somebody has a question.
I mean, we heard from Violet and possibly Anna. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I
Did we
mean,
learn anything?
there was a couple of names that did come through. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Let me see if I can get Eric back.
Mhm.
Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Um, let me see. Sorry, that's what happens sometimes when we're doing these live sessions. Sometimes they don't want people to come on. It happens.
Mhm. I see
All right.
someone brought up Pioneer Park too. That place is crazy. It is pretty crazy there.
Um, hold on one second. Somebody has a question about the firing squad.
Mhm.
Yeah. So go ahead and let me go do something really quick.
Yeah.
So go ahead and talk about that if you can.
Yeah. So he was part of the firing squad. So the he shot Antonio Gara into his own grave at the cemetery at El Campo Santo Cemetery. So yeah, he was part of this firing squad. I believe there was 8 of them. He was one of the 8. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So you got that. All right. There's another question. Um, can you tell a little bit of history behind Juan?
Juan Verdugo?
Yes.
Um, I know a little bit about him, not a lot. Um, I know he wanted to kill like every white person, every white man. Wanted to protect his land. I believe he was murdered too. Yeah.
I'm turning Eric's volume down.
So is this better?
Yeah, I mean, there was just a little bit of traffic noise going by, but I got it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there's somebody talking. Eric, if it, can you, is there any way you can go like in your car or something? Because I mean, it
Yeah.
is.
Let me see.
Sorry,
Hopefully, I don't lose.
sorry. Let me. I'm gonna put you off camera real quick. Um, what else was? What, I'm just looking through all the through all the comments. So if anybody else has any other if anybody else has any other questions, feel free to ask. I mean, where the Whaley House sits, there's so many haunted locations around it. Um,
Yeah.
it's I mean, down the street. All right, so Eric's back. So down the street, where there's a cemetery. Now there's a bunch of grave markers in the street, on the sidewalk. They're
Yep.
kind of everywhere. They're like these gold coins.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk by there, or you'll see them in the middle of the street. Um, if you go there at night, it is pretty crazy. The one time that Eric, we just lost Eric again. The one time that Eric and I were there, we were there probably everything was closed down. Um, so Eric,
There we go.
I'm talking about the cemetery down the street. Um, when we went there, and we were hearing disembodied voices, and then we thought we saw an apparition on the backside of the cemetery. And then
Yeah.
we kind of thought it was maybe a tourist or something. And there's like an alley behind there, so I ran through the cemetery and I looked both ways. And for somebody to just, because I mean the alley is like long, it's super long, and there's nothing else around. Then there's another part that goes up. So if he would have went up, we would have saw him. If he went left or right, we would have saw him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he just was gone like in an instant. And there's no buildings. Well, there's buildings there on the backside of the buildings, but everything's exposed. So we would have heard a door open or shut. We would have actually saw him by that time, because for him to walk from where we saw him to where the building was, he would have had to run to make it to the building by the time we got there. So yeah, there was just no way, and he wasn't moving that fast. So anyway, it was pretty crazy. So what are some of the dates on the gravestones there? They go back to what, the early 1800s or mid 1800s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the three gentlemen that were shot during the firing squad are they're buried side by side in that cemetery. So there's three grave markers. They're little crosses. They're side by side. All three of them are in the one little area. And Yankee Jim is just a little ways away from them. Have I ever done a ghost box session in the house? No. The reason why I don't do ghost box sessions during any during investigations is because a ghost box will contaminate anybody else that's trying to gather evidence, especially if you're going to break up. Just because the way that it was. Hold on one sec.
Sorry, there were some clowns on motorcycles.
So anytime you're in a house or a small location like that, Yeah, if you tried to even do a ghost box session, it would be so loud you would hear it throughout the whole house, whether you're upstairs, whether downstairs, whatever. So that's why I always, and like I was saying last week, I've been to a few locations where um, at the beginning of uh, the facilitator even says, if anybody has a ghost box in their bag or SB7 or anything like that, do not use it in the building. Um, and they will even say if it's done, they will ask you to turn it off. If you continue using it, they'll ask you to leave. Just because it's so loud, and it just that's one of the reasons why I always say, there's a time and a place to use a ghost box. Maybe later during an investigation, or if there's not very many people there, if there's just you and one other person, then that's fine. But that's what I always suggest. So, uh, what else?
So we might actually be filming at the Whaley House sometime in the hopefully near future.
Hopefully, yeah, I'm planning on doing something in a few weeks there. So even if it's out on the grounds, that's fine. I've seen a lot of things even on the grounds, even where the pepper trees are. You can see where the pepper trees are on the side of the house. Not going to say what's near there, um, but there has been people even seen walking in that area. Apparitions have been seen there. Apparitions have been seen behind the Whaley House, outside of out of the property. So just on the grounds itself, people have seen things happen. Looking out of the windows, things peering out of the windows. People have seen people peering out of the windows. I actually witnessed on the side of the house, up on the second floor, there's a middle bedroom. Is that the nursery? What's the middle bedroom upstairs? Or is that
So there's the master, then there's the theater, and then there's the nursery, and then the back bedroom.
Yeah. Okay. So where the nursery is, I actually saw a light turn on before we were waiting out. Actually, we went to dinner. We walked by the pepper tree and we saw the light turn on. So once the facilitator got there, he got there maybe an hour before the investigation started. I talked to him and I said, "Hey, I saw the light turn on. Who was in the house when you opened up the door?" And he said, "Nobody." And he said, "So you saw it turn on?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you sure it wasn't already on?" I said, "No, it was off, and I saw it turn on." I said, "So did her." So there was two of us. And then he said, "Interesting." So he said he went upstairs, and actually was off when he went up there. So it's kind of interesting.
Another place I did go to just recently in San Diego. I tried to find a couple of abandoned places. There's an abandoned RV park near the marina. There's a house that's really run down that I guess was in a fire. And I didn't scout these out on Google Earth or anything, so I wasn't really able to find a lot of them. But one place I did go to that feels very creepy, and they're actually doing something for Halloween this year, is Marshall Scotty's.
Where's Marshall Scotty's?
That is an abandoned amusement park.
Where's that at?
I want to say in between San Diego and El Cajon.
Hmm.
It's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
So somebody has a question. So how big is the property? I would say it might be an acre, maybe.
Oh, I used to know off the top of my head. Mm. Yeah, something like that.
It's
Nothing crazy.
it's not huge.
It's not. Yeah. I mean,
It
from the picture, it might look big, but
it might be the size of just a normal track home.
yeah. Mhm.
The home itself isn't that big. I'd say about maybe not even 5,000 square feet, or is it
Oh no, it's
bigger than
not
that?
even no, it's not even that size.
Yeah.
It might be 2,000 square feet, maybe
Maybe.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, something around that. Yeah.
Um, was there any rituals done outside on the grounds?
So when I would go into work in the mornings, I'd always check the grounds before opening. And sometimes I'd find like candles and it looked like they were doing rituals. And I was like, oh God. Or people would like put salt by the door. I'm like, I mean, we don't know what people are doing at night. So
Another
strange stuff
question.
though before.
Do you think it's like do you think it's a residual haunting or is there actual activity there?
I think it's both.
Now, I can contest to this. When Anna gets pissed, if she doesn't like people that are in the house, she will scream and say, "Get out of my house." And so it's been actually caught on tape a few times. And actually, people have actually heard her disembodied voice of her saying, "Get out of my house." And she always says it from on top of the stairs, like she's looking down, like she's up on the upper
Mhm.
floor looking down on the stairs, and she's yelling at you from the top banister saying, "Get out of my house."
That's kind of weird because Steve was telling Ace and I, Steve isn't someone that gets anxiety, but he told us the story actually a couple of times how he was at the top of the stairs and uh, he was feeling just extreme anxiety one time, like he wanted to leave the home.
Yep, that happens a lot.
Mhm.
A lot of people leave because they feel sick.
Where it was for me was I had only been there one time prior, and that was quite a few years ago. Like I said, it was in the theater. Is there anything specific with that area?
Yeah, it seems to be active in that room too.
Mhm. So Ben, yeah, there's been a lot of EVPs captured there.
Mhm.
You can, like I said, you can be on the steps, capture EVPs. You can be on the side of the house near the pepper trees, catch EVPs. You can be behind the house, for the what do they call it? Behind the house, what's that little
Oh,
Portico?
the Derby.
the derby?
That was our break room. Yeah.
So where the derby is, people catch EVPs.
It's haunted in that little building too. You just feel like you're being watched all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy. I mean, it's kind of weird on how it is because on the left side of the house behind the house there's like a fence, but then you walk around the other side and it's like open so you can get to the back side of the fence if you just walk around the house. It's kind of weird, like they just left that fence there on there just to keep people off walking behind it, I guess, from walking around the house. But you still can do it, but you just come on where the light post is and come in on this side because it's open on the back side. So, but
When I was just there, the place where I felt the most energy without being inside the house was the back right corner, kind of like towards the back of the Whaley House, heading towards the home in the back, like right at that corner.
yeah, so the funny thing is, Eric, is that's where the back bedroom is. And that back bedroom has so much energy because that's where Anna was brought in and she passed in that back bedroom, right? Or did she pass in the
Yeah, later on in life, she like had some health stuff going on, so they had her downstairs because it was hard for her to go up and down the steps. She passed away in that room too.
So yeah, there's a lot of energy that you feel in there.
Yeah, it's thick in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much, Ben. There is pretty much the whole property has activity. There's just so much you have to remember because this was the gallows. Before the house was built, that this was the location where the gallows
Yep.
were. So there was, several hangings there. There was a lot of things that happened there. There was a lot of deaths in the house. There was a suicide by Violet. Anna Whaley passed in the house. There was other activity when the house was built. There was a lot of activity in the house that the Whaleys were experiencing. So yeah, it just has a really dark and sinister history. So yeah, it's there's just a lot there. Along with other buildings in that vicinity. I mean, there's a bar directly across the street that's very haunted. There's if you walk down to the square in the middle of Old Town, there's a lot of Western. There's even an Adobe still there. That Adobe is haunted. There's another home um, just on the if you pass the Adobe and it's on the back um, west end of the Adobe, there's another home there. That house is haunted. There's another visiting center. That visiting center is haunted.
Mhm.
There's other restaurants to the north in that square that are haunted. There's a little antique shop that Judy and I were talking about that
My
she's
favorite
a
show.
little store. I was talking to the owner because I walked in the back and there's this corner in the store where there's a bunch of hats, and I was like, "Holy crap!" You just feel the energy when you walk there. So I walked to the up to the front, and the owner she was behind. She's a little older lady.
She's
She's so cool,
Mhm.
and her and I were talking, and she saw my shirt. I didn't realize I had, one of my paranormal shirts on, and she said, "Oh, are you a paranormal investigator?" And I started laughing, and I looked, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." And she said, "So, what do you think of my place?" And I said, "So, what's going on in the back where the hats are?" She said, "Oh, yeah, there's, some, I've seen, a spirit of a gentleman back there." And she said, "If you want to feel something really creepy, go back in the storeroom." And I said, "Where's that?" And she said, "Back behind those curtains." And so I was like, she said, "Go ahead." So I went back there. I was like, "Yeah, the energy is just really, really thick." And then also the crown jewel is the Cosmopolitan Hotel is very haunted and active. So, and I know that the Cosmopolitan, a lot of ghost shows have been there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that whole area is just full of activity.
The haunted Mexican restaurant, I believe it's called La Fondongo. Is that correct? Um,
I don't know. I mean, there's so many. I don't know which. There's so
yeah,
many
this
Mexican restaurants.
this place was well known. It's I ate dinner there a few years ago. It was supposedly haunted. That place, to my understanding, is permanently gone. Um, but the other place that was very creepy to me was, well, first of all, in that area also is a place called the Witch's Tower, that Steve brought us to, and there used to be just, I guess it's now used as city storage, but no one really knows the history to it. And there was a design of a pentagram on top. We didn't see it at night, Ace and I. It was kind of hard to see, but that place felt really creepy. And then there's a park up the hill where all the mansions are, and the tombstones are removed, but there's still bodies under the ground.
Yeah, that's like Cemetery Park in Ventura. She said that Darcy says that place that is gone. The Witch's Tower is gone.
No, the Witch's Tower is there. I think she's talking about the Mexican restaurant.
Oh, the Mexican restaurant. Yeah, I mean, Ben, it's an amazing place to go. You can stay there and just walk around even at night because Old Town closes down fairly early. But the restaurant, yeah, she said the restaurant.
Yeah.
So Old Town closes down like at 10. I think by 11 o'clock, it's a ghost town. And you still can walk around because everything, all the, you can just walk around down the streets. You can walk in front of all the businesses. You can walk in front of the Whaley House. You can walk, anywhere. And if you start walking around, especially in the square, you can feel some of the energy. And there's actually people that have seen apparitions walking in the square in the early morning hours. People have taken pictures. And there's nobody there, but they're in period clothing. People have seen that several people like walking in a crowd. Same thing with what's that city in Nevada? God,
Virginia City.
Virginia City. Same thing with Virginia City. If you wake up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, or if you're out there in the wee early hours, and if you take pictures of the boardwalk, people will actually get apparitions of people walking down, or pictures of people in period clothing walking down the boardwalk. And so but it's same thing has been reported there at the square in Old Town.
So I have a question for Chudy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hate to put you on the spot, but if you had to pick one,
Mm-hmm.
which would you say is more haunted? The William Heath Davis house, which I think has been slightly renamed, or the Whaley House?
See, I've never been to the that one house. It's on my bucket list though. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The William Heath house. So up in the attic. So I was very good friends with Maritza, who runs San Diego Ghost Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
We did a podcast with her out at an Adobe in the San Fernando Valley for Creepy AF, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, she used to facilitate the tours at the Whaley House, the midnight tours or investigations. They would run from midnight to 2 a.m. So it was a little hectic the one night that it was supposed to just be us, my team. So there was 4 of us that were supposed to go there, but it kind of got messed up. So it was overbooked, and there was actually like maybe 10 people. So it didn't go very well. So she felt really bad. And so she pulled me aside after some of my teammates got kicked out. She pulled me aside and asked if I would be willing to go to another location. I didn't know which location it was. She just said it's about 20 minutes from here, but she said if we get on the freeway, we'll be there pretty quick. So she said, if we wanted to do it, fine. So we met up in the front of the Whaley House, and we all walked out to our cars because we're all parked in the same parking lot. So we all just walked out there, and then she said, okay, just follow me. And she took us to the William Heath Davis house. That place it's an old Victorian home that's in the middle of downtown San Diego in the Gaslamp district. So we went there, So she gave us a tour, and it was a doctor's office. And upstairs in the doctor's office, he used to sell alcohol. So during the prohibition times. So she showed us in the hallway and where he stashed the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that room, you smell cigar smoke. And when we were in there, I was like, who's smoking a cigar? And she said, oh, it's the doctor. And I said, what do you mean? She said, that's like one of the claims, that they smell him smoking cigars. And I said, do you guys smell that? And all of a sudden, yeah, everybody got a big whiff of it. And they're like, oh my God. So then we started doing EVPs. We got an EVP of him um, asking if we wanted liquor, which was pretty cool. And then up in the attic, I was walking by the stairs and I was like, holy crap, what's up there? And she said, oh, that's the attic. She said, do you want to go in there? You can go in there by yourself. But I'm not going to tell you who's up there. So supposedly, so I went in there and I heard somebody sobbing, like crying, and sounded like it was crying and hurt. Supposedly, during the war, they had it was a Nazi soldier. Um, they were hiding him up in the attic.
Oh, wow.
So then downstairs, we heard one of our investigators, yelling. It was a female. She was screaming, and a little boy like grabbed her, like tugged on her coat, and she turned around and saw him, and she just screamed really loud because it startled her. And then he was gone. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. That place is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's on my bucket list also, as well as a place that we were going to go, but it just got too late. And by the time we finished the podcast, I think it was almost 3 a.m. And the location we wanted to go was at least a half hour from Steve's house in Old Town. And that's Harmony Grove, or the Elfin Forest.
Have you heard
And
of that,
that's
Judy? Have you heard of that place?
it's now a Christian spiritual retreat, like a Christian Science, I believe.
Okay.
But supposedly there used to be a mental hospital there, and also a witch's coven. And one of the things Steve told us is that he used to live kind of near there, and he had a sports car, so he liked driving it down the long, desolate roads.
Mm-hmm.
And it was summertime, I don't think it was summertime. I think it was when school was in session, I believe it was what he was saying. And it was like 2 a.m. one morning, and he saw, with no adult supervision, in the middle of nowhere, like 10 to 15 children. And it just reminded him of Children of the Corn.
Wow.
But that's definitely a place I want to check out. I don't know if there's much there. It might just be a road, like one of those roads like Clifton Road in New Jersey or something like that. But that's the story. Supposedly there was a mental hospital, and there's might still be a witch's coven, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that apparently goes on there. Rob knows I like the crazy dark stuff, as far as the paranormal goes, the adrenaline rush once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, Eric, where is that place? Is it
you know what? I'm not exactly sure. I just know that it's 30 minutes from Old Town. I think I might be wrong, but I believe it's heading up northeast. I'm not 100% positive, though.
That's what we were just talking about, Judy. That's the place you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Judy was telling me about that place.
God, you know what? I don't like this. Like you were talking about, and I didn't hear her at the beginning of the show, so I don't know what she was talking about. For some reason, I didn't have her volume. But trying to get. They're coming back. Like you said with the Whaley House, how just before I sent you the pictures, it said my name. So something, I hope it's not something dark, is trying to bring back my psychic abilities, because I had that psychic hit with you a couple of weeks ago. I forgot what it was, but it was about where we were going to stay.
Yeah.
On the road trip. I'm all like, are we staying here? And you're like, yeah. So I don't know if I like that, because I think my subconscious turned it off for a reason, and now it's coming back.
I think we're going to stop by there the day after the concert, after we check out. What's the name of that place? That gold town or old mining town?
Julian?
No.
Cripple Creek?
Yeah, Cripple Creek. So yeah, we're going to be stopping in Cripple Creek for a night. There's an old hotel. It's a casino hotel. So in Cripple Creek, we're going to stop by there when we leave Boulder. We're going to Red Rocks in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Been doing a lot of traveling.
So Trudy, Raina wants to know,
Mm-hmm.
have you had any experience since being away from the Whaley House?
I've had vivid dreams about the house, being in the house, seeing family members, and just like the feeling of like that draw, like just like I just need to go to the house.
So Darcy said the place that you guys are talking about is near Poway.
That sounds right.
I know it's up on the way towards Julian. I know it's out that way.
Mm-hmm.
Trudy wants to do a ghost box session. Maybe Saturday. We'll wait till Saturday. So yeah, if you guys ever, it says north on the 15th.
Are they talking about that one location?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says north on 15th. See, Eric, when we do go on our trip, we're going to take the 15 anyway out. So it'll be perfect. It's not even out of the way. So it'll be better for us, because going to the valley from trying to take the back roads out, like, yeah, going through Palmdale out to the 15th, a pain in the ass. This will be better if we were out in San Diego anyway and we head out that way. So
I just did that. I was booked for a wrestling show in Vegas, and I took Pear Blossom. And that reminds me. I never told you, but when we did, I was driving with the promoter to the show that never happened. Excuse me, but it was nighttime. I think it was about 2-3 in the morning, and we were driving down Pear Blossom, and that road where all the bumps are, it's like a roller coaster. It just completely creeped him out. He said, there's something creepy about this. And I actually saw, I was too tired to care, but I saw an apparition just fly right by the car. You could just see it, like, just walk right in front of the car on that road. And I told him, he didn't see. Because I don't think he's too big on the paranormal, but he's like, see, I told you I didn't like this road.
yeah. So Eric,
and someone, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and someone, I met someone at a gas station. I hope I still have it written down, but near one of the gas stations we stopped at, supposedly there's a huge, like, abandoned barn or something that I want to eventually check out. And that's in Palmdale, I believe.
Hey, Deb. Welcome. So Eric, what else have you been working on?
Well, I just signed the paperwork for a show. Hopefully that goes through. I've been really busy with Creepy AF. We started off with Universal Halloween Horror Nights. And then the next day we went to Winchester Mystery House in San Jose for their Halloween thing, which was incredible. I was talking to a friend I saw up there who said he liked the show a few years ago, but that was more like an immersive haunt with more actors. I didn't have anything to compare it to, but I loved this anyways. It was using animatronics and sound and a couple of actors that basically told the haunted history of the Winchester, and I just thought it was awesome. I think it was like almost an hour and a half show, and they had projection mapping on the house, a pumpkin, like carved pumpkins and scarecrows and stuff. And then that Sunday we did Creep at Real OC at the OC Heritage Museum, where we shot our first episode for the Creepy AF spinoff, Creepy AF Paranormal. And then I believe it was last Friday, we went to SeaWorld Hallow Scream. That's when we did the Whaley show podcast. Saturday, Stephen Ace went to Fright Fest. I was invited, but I wanted to see a show in Ocean Beach, a wrestling show, GCW versus Fist Combat, which runs every Saturday. I told Rob if we go to San Diego, we should go. Show was just amazing. It was standing room only, and it was just absolutely incredible. And I have a few more things coming up. One of the things I'm looking forward to is the LA Haunted Hayride. I haven't been in a few years. And then as far as Creepy AF, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, but we're looking at doing a public investigation at the museum. We investigated in Orange County. And then we're hoping to film at Winchester Mystery House, the Whaley House, and Zach's museum in Vegas, and then a couple more shows. And we might, Ace has been talking with a major company that just bought out one of the biggest horror websites. So
nice.
He didn't tell me too much about it, but he said he's in preliminary talks.
Nice.
So that's what I've been up to. I've been working to, unemployment just ended, so I've been busting my backside to get money for all this traveling I've been doing, and the trip to Colorado, and then possibly Vegas to do Freakling Brothers, which is an extreme haunt. I know both Rob and my mom love me doing those extreme haunts where they torture you.
And you get raped in an alley.
They're gone. That show's not around anymore, as far as I know.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. So Chudy, now, if you want to tell everybody else or tell everybody where you're working now, if you want to do that.
The USS Midway Museum.
Oh.
And there's claims of that being haunted too, but
there's activity going on that ship.
Maybe we'll do that on another show. Maybe once you get have more stories to tell about it. And, I think it's pretty cool. Hold on one second. Somebody else has another question. Judy, when you're there, have you felt like you walked through cobwebs?
Yes, especially in the courtroom. I do not like going to the courtroom. I only go in there when I would have to.
So here's the thing with cobwebs. Well, so when you're filling cobwebs, I know a lot of people don't talk about this. Now, when people talk about, EMF, things like that, actually, and it's funny because I've only heard this said by a few facilitators of locations that have a lot of activity. I've only heard 2 facilitators talk about this. Now, what do you feel? And they explain what it is and what people have experienced. And I love that. So when people feel like you're walking through cobwebs
Mm-hmm.
and you look and there's no cobwebs, what that actually is it's a discharge of static electricity. Now, to me, well, in my experience, anytime that I have felt that static discharge, and I am carrying a static detector. There are static detectors that you can buy very, very cheap, and they work amazing. So, because in back back before I could find a frequency counter because they were so hard to find, I would carry a static detector and a millimeter. The millimeter, I was only carrying a millimeter to disprove that EMF exists in the paranormal. And because of some of the theories that I did some research on, and a lot of, and me talking and working with parapsychologists said ghosts don't put out EMF, they put out a static discharge, or they will put out negative ions, which is almost like the same type of energy. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime I would carry a millimeter and a static detector, the static detector, anytime there's a static discharge or you felt those cobwebs, that that meter immediately would start going off. The millimeter would just sit there at 0 milligauss. There was no hits. Um, Same thing. Somebody else was carrying a K2. K2 never got hit. But the static detector would just start going off like crazy. Um, So, and it's just funny that that's why I said when people say talk about cobwebs, that's static discharge. Um, and if you think about it, when we're humans, what did we used to do when we were kids? Or I used to do anyway, my friends, we would go around, like, especially when we were in the library and we all, were taken there in our class to the library. We would all start, rubbing our feet on the carpet, running around and zapping people
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Because humans can um, create static electricity. So I'm thinking that's where that's where my theory started coming into play with, wait a minute, if we're humans and we can, put out static electricity, how can, but we can't, physically, grab something and light it up, like light up a light bulb just by touching it. Um, but we can generate static electricity. So why can spirit create electricity but not how is it possible for them to create electricity when you think about it? We can't. So that didn't make any sense to me of why people would carry around an EMF detector when that's what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But it, it's just tools of the trade. So you use an EMF detector to do a baseline to see if there's any type of bad wiring, things like that, and it could be causing hallucinations and people seeing spirit, whatever. But if you're looking for proof of something, then that's why you would kind of do that. So anyway,
Yeah, I remember vividly one case that I did when I was doing a lot of residentials, and there were just all kinds of electric equipment. The kitchen was a fear cage. The bedroom was kind of small. It had the alarm clock, it had the TV, and that was a fear cage. And not only that, but there was, I believe it was like a utility pole, like a telephone pole or something right outside the person's window. So of course they're going to be experiencing something. And a lot of the cases I remember stuff that I captured, and I don't remember capturing anything at that location. I could be wrong, but I just remember there was literally a utility pole right outside this person's bedroom.
Yeah. But see, that's when people, I mean, you have to, so, back, so investigating 30 years ago is different than, it was totally different time,
Right.
of investigating to, up to 10 years ago, or actually, I would say even 15 years ago, and 15 years ago to now, has changed. Now, the equipment that a lot of people are using, you have to be very careful because none of this equipment is geared up for RF interference, which there's a ton now. There's a ton of RF interference. It's probably 1,000 times more than it was 10, 15 years ago. So you have to remember, everybody in a house now has Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi creates RF interference. The reason why I know so much about RF interference is because that's what I do for a job, for a living. I have to troubleshoot what's putting out RF interference, what causes Wi-Fi interference. So there's so many things that that come into play during this. So a lot of the equipment that a lot of people carry that is now outdated, and everything is affected, and it's putting out false positives due to RF interference. So there's just a lot of things that you have to take in consideration. And the only reason why I'm talking about that is because somebody brought up, cobwebs, and the same thing with the ghost box. There's a time and a place for a ghost box. An investigation is not one of them. I'm just even though I do build ghost boxes, even though I do use ghost boxes, I never use a ghost box during an investigation. Eric loves using the ghost box during the investigations.
Well,
And wait,
my hackish. Okay.
okay, but listen, what did I used to tell you? Turn that shit off,
Yeah.
didn't I?
Yeah, but I've gotten so much crazy
No,
stuff with my hack shack. But I did say I have said to you, and I've said to Ace, I said, can't we also bring back dry EVPs? Everybody has a short attention span, and they're using basically just spirit boxes these days.
no, exactly. Um, but no, I mean, what I'm saying is when we're trying to gather evidence, maybe towards the end of the night. Okay, so we were there for, let's say we're at an investigation for like 4 hours. We're not getting anything more. Okay, you want to break out a ghost box? Do it. Everybody's getting ready to leave anyway. So everybody starts disbanding, whatever. There's only 2, 3 of us left in the house. All right, break out the spare or the ghost box. Go for it. And then we'll start getting other things. And then we're like, okay, let's just add this to the evidence that we captured because it is coinciding with some of the stuff that we're doing. But early on, no, I'm always like, turn that crap off. So
Yeah, you did used to say that, but I did. Although I love dry EVPs, and it seems like 80-90% of the field has moved away from it because they just don't have the patience or whatever.
you know why?
Um,
I'm going to tell you this right now. The reason why people don't want to do it is because everybody is for instant gratification. Everybody wants answers,
exactly. Yeah.
and they want answers right now, which people, I would say, if people would have stick with the standards that, I mean, Eric, you even seen it. When we used to investigate, I met you back in what, 2014. Back in 2014, there was so much documentations that we would do. Um, there was so much evidence that we would do. I mean, so many things that we would do even prior to the investigation.
Yeah, I
I
used to
mean,
have all that paperwork. Remember the sun and the moon and all that stuff?
see, there you go. So yeah, I used to do, and I would print out that thing for every investigation. How many? Okay, and if people would say, okay, this isn't a requirement, but how many people were doing that? There was a lot of teams doing that, and a lot of teams were scanning that stuff and sharing it. So if people would have to say, okay, here's the protocols that you have to follow during an investigation, then what you would do is, I mean, how many people would even continue to investigate to this day? There would be a lot of people like, screw this. This is too much work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I used to even have people sign liability forms even on residentials. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did to cover our ass. I mean, when we were at La Purísima, I had $1 million insurance policy, a liability insurance policy. I carried $1 million insurance policy, investigating, but that was a requirement for a lot of places out here in California. So that was one of the things that I needed to prove, that I had liability insurance when I signed up for a couple investigations. One was Whaley House, because they said, okay, if you want to do like kind of a private tour, for us to, and this is when I was talking to Maritza, she said, if you have insurance form, that would almost guarantee you that you would be able to get in there with a small group of people, and you would pay the price, because you were taking that extra responsibility. And so I had my policy with me. I always had my policy with me in my bag. I carried that policy until 2018, I think. 2019 is when I let it lapse. Anyway, yeah, I'm just seeing if anybody else. Hold on one second. I'm gonna type something in. I can send you guys both a message. Hey Sam, how are you doing? Hold on one second. Hey Sam, are you gonna do another odd place to stop and do a rant video? Next to the cows? I think you were parked next to the cows doing a long rant. It sounded like there was cows next to you mooing. Anyway, God, I wish I had the video still. I think I deleted it. Of the so I can play it. Of Sam having to run in with a cow. You guys would get a laugh. Eric would run into a pig.
Well, when I went to
So
when
tell
I went to
the story about the pig.
okay, let me just say one thing real quick. When I went to Byron Hot Springs Hotel, an abandoned hotel up in the Bay Area, there was like and you know Eric Weinberger, he's terrified of wildlife. So I told him straight out, I said, yeah, there might be bulls, there might be this, there might be that. So we're going down the road to Byron Hot Springs, and somehow all the cows and even the bulls jumped over this fence and charged the car. And there was like I don't know why, but there was like some kind of traffic pole there in the middle of nowhere. Maybe it was a parking space a long time ago. I don't know. But I intentionally, and I mean, it was probably irresponsible, but it was hilarious at the time. I backed my car into the traffic pole and I told him that we were stuck while all these bulls were surrounding us. But and he was just terrified. I think he even got, you know how big he is. Somehow he got down like at the bottom of the seat. But yeah, the pig story. So I was doing a movie that's been in post-production now for a long time. I don't think it's ever going to get done. It's been in post forever, but it was actually a paranormal horror comedy where the concept is every time that the crew tries to film, this ghost appears on camera, and I played the producer of the show. So we were filming at this the apartment wasn't abandoned, but it was in a bad part of the San Fernando Valley at the time. And the valley used to be all farmland. And I mean, this one area we're in, I mean, there was like, I don't know if it was a crack house in the back or what. There's like this huge abandoned area, it looked like a fortress. There was like metal bolts, and then they had, just for added measure, like they needed it, 2x4s across the door, and the refrigerator had food, and there was probably 20 years old. So the director wanted me to do a scene where I'm following around the ghost crew, and I have my digital recorder. So I just turned it on. I thought, well, it's going to look more real if somehow the camera picks up the red light or green light or whatever. So about 6 months passed, and we were at La Purísima, actually, and Rob was with his ex-girlfriend, and I was staying in the room with them, and I wanted to hear the audio from that night at La Purísima, and somehow it picked up the recording of when I was filming this movie, and all we heard was like pig snouts, pig snorts and pig growling. And Rob's ex-girlfriend at the time, and I don't think at that time Rob found it as hilarious as his ex-girlfriend did, but his ex-girlfriend just found it absolutely hilarious. And then, yeah, both of us started laughing also. We're like, what the hell? That's a pig. And I recognized it from the horror film I had been acting on. And I would say for at least a year or two, it turned out to be a demonic attachment I somehow picked up on that film set. But every time, it says my name almost even on Rob's show, 3-4 times a day, and or 3-4 times an episode. But on the audio, whether it was dry EVPs or Spirit Box or what was it, we would always get pig growling, pig snorting, pig noises, and it would even say stuff like ham, bacon, pork, oink, not make the noise oink, but say oink, and and then all of the noises, of course. And yeah, it turned out to be a demonic attachment, and it was there for years. And one night, actually, it was that case in Boyle Heights where they had supposedly been doing Santeria. I asked, I don't know if it was a dry EVP or a Spirit Box, but I said, who's the pig? And it said Ian. And it was Ian is Rob's son. I mean, the thing just liked fucking with me. So a few years ago, probably about 2-3 years ago, Rob got me for my birthday like this porcelain pig statue that has at least one entity. I'm sure one of them probably isn't the greatest. And I had given it to my friend who was also in the wrestling industry, and bad stuff just started happening to him. So when he moved to Vegas, he gave it back to me. It's still on my mantle. And Chris Kloss, who is a pretty well-known announcer in the wrestling industry, he's been on MTV and everything. Our LAPD sergeant friend runs a wrestling show down the street from where I live. So he comes over to my house, or he was every Friday night after the show. And Rob has seen it. I have like this framed Buddha with gold around it that's in the front of my house that I got in Japan. So every time Klaus comes over, he turns the pig sideways and he puts the Buddha picture facing the pig. He says, well, Buddha is like Christ or Moses or Muhammad. He has more power than the pig. But I always take it down because it doesn't aesthetically look good on my mantle that way. So I don't know. Maybe it should be there. I don't know. It doesn't look like the best decor.
You know what's funny? Wayne just said if you live near Farmer John's slaughterhouse. Actually, I went to the property that's owned by the family from Farmer John's, and that place is very haunted.
Is it abandoned?
You can go in there. I mean, they give tours.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember when Mortis did those. God, I haven't seen Mortis in years. Mortis a wizard. Yeah, I used to get Ian coming through a lot.
And Ed.
Yeah, Mortis used to do some incredible videos. His intro, where he's dressed as the plague doctor and walking through a field, is pretty amazing. He used to dress as a plague doctor. But all right, guys, it's getting a little late, so we're gonna wrap up. Thanks, Eric, for coming on.
Yeah, I think this wound up working. Sorry for the noise. I don't know. Sometimes people like the background noise. I know when we did the show at Creep It Real at Heritage Museum, I mean, it was a different story. It was Halloween music, but it kind of added to the ambience.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm making an excuse. Maybe Halloween music's a lot better than traffic noise, but
No, it's all right. It worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Darcy, send me that information, please. I sent you my email. It's theparawakening@gmail.com. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, I wanted to ask you a couple of things anyway. So if you can please email me, that's theparawakening@gmail.com. Yeah, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Yeah, well, thank you everybody for tuning
thank you.
in. It was a fun show. Tune in on Saturday night. We're gonna do more ghost box sessions, and everybody that has signed up to be on the project, look out for another email. I just sent one out today. I'll probably do another one with a little bit more information coming. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning
Thank
in,
you.
and have